count that. So foundation point 2, the Israelites were black people. Okay, they weren't these Jewish people, and so we're going to go into why that is. So no, the Egyptians weren't white people, I'm afraid. Even though all the films that you see and all the illustrations, they show white people, it's kind of obvious that the people living in northeast Africa were black people. So the biblical Israelites were black. It says that Ham, this is according to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, Ham was the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. They're separate people. But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, Canaanites. So it's telling you there that, again, the Egyptians and what became the Africans were black people. So going through the Bible, I'm not going to go through all of these, but Joseph in the Bible was so much like an Egyptian that his own brothers didn't recognise him. So obviously he looked like an Egyptian, so the Israelites were black people. Moses was also an Israelite, but he was raised under the nose of Pharaoh, so he'd kind of stand out if he was a white guy. And he was also mistaken as an Egyptian by the daughters of the priest of Midian. And also Moses' sister, Miriam, was turned white as a punishment. So Charlton Heston played Moses in the Ten Commandments film. There was a bit they left out of that film, was when the Most High, as a test or a demonstration of his power, he told Moses to put his hand into his tunic and then take it out, and his hand had turned white. Well, that's something that Charlton Heston couldn't really do. So I suppose it does look a bit paler, So it tells you that Moses actually looked very different to Charlton Heston. So there's a lot more biblical references that tell you that the Israelites were actually black people, but you can go through it in the Bible. And throughout the what's called the Renaissance period, all of the artwork was replaced throughout Europe, but because Russia, it was a kind of insular society at that time, Renaissance didn't get to Russia. So you can go online and search for Russian icons, and you'll find that everybody who was portrayed in the Bible were portrayed black. After Renaissance, all that artwork was destroyed and replaced with whitenized versions. But 500 years ago, prior to 500 years ago, this is how they were always depicted. And the last thing is that this man is the ex-president of Egypt, and he was quoted on television to say, "We can't accept the Jews because they left here black but came back white." So, and he literally said that on television. And he was murdered not long after that.
Weren't they forbidden race Nubians?
Say that again?
Nubians.
What about it?
The black, they were to do with the black pharaohs.
Right, again...
They were discriminated against by the Ethnic Society of 1932, and all their artwork was eradicated.
That happened too, but
Nubians.
the Nubians were also...
were the pharaohs who mixed with the Egyptians.
Indeed, but the Nubians were also part of the ones that I described.
Tall race, 10-foot tall people.
I'm coming to that. The last point I'm going to make on this is that Africans and Negroes are two different peoples. Race and skin colour are really a red herring. Okay, it's a kind of divisive lie that has been put about, and I'm going to go into this a bit more in detail. But to separate people by perceived race is a distraction. Okay, so we all think that all black people are the same, basically, but they're not. Africans and Negroes are different. They have a different skeletal structure, different skull shape, and one interesting thing is African people, real Africans, cannot grow hair like Negroes can. So African men cannot grow beards. All right? African women cannot grow afros. Right? It's a very powerful thing. If you see real African women, you'll see that they've always got very, very short hair because they can't grow it. So we're going to start with Genesis, okay? And this is going to take a quite long route, but there needs to be a bit of a foundation before we get into where Britain comes in. So, very quickly, Adam was not the very first man. The Bible is only covering a period of time which is about 7,000 years, the last 7,000 years of Earth's history. It doesn't cover before that period. There were people before that period, and the first verses of the Bible actually tell you that if you read it properly and you read it with the translating the Paleo-Hebrew. Some of the words aren't translated quite correctly, and gives you the impression that it's all happening contemporaneously, but it's not. It's actually there's like a gap period in between the first two verses. Eve was seduced by more than just an apple. Yeah, the actual event was Eve having sex with an angel called Samael. Or he'd be called Satan, and their DNA was corrupted. Okay, it was almost a foreshadowing of a later event, and Eve taught this forbidden knowledge to Adam because Adam was supposed to be immortal. That was his job, was to be the governor of this world, and he was supposed to be immortal. But the corruption by Satan basically stopped that. So Eve had sons with two different fathers. Cain had the wicked serpent DNA. And this is the characteristic of when the angels mix with humans. There's the offspring are very different and wicked. So let's move on. So this is a line in the Bible, Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So it's only one line in the Bible, one or two lines in the Bible, but if you look in the book of Enoch, it goes into much more detail. There's no mistaking what they're trying to say in the book of Enoch, but angels came down and had sex with women and produced offspring. Now the Bible only talks about one type of offspring, the Nephilim, who were giants, but according to the book of Enoch, there were different types of offspring who were just as different. So these are the fallen angels that wandered down to Mount Hermon. The interesting thing about Mount Hermon is that when Paris was the prime meridian, Mount Hermon was 33 degrees north and 33 degrees east. So those numbers are kind of significant to certain people. So one type of the offspring were Nephilim, but as I said, there were others. But the point is that the human genetic code was corrupted. So let's look at the traits of the Nephilim. Shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through them very quickly. Giantism, 6 fingers and toes, 2 rows of teeth, extra body hair, extra vertebrae, a tail, and there's a big one, lack of melanin in the skin, blue or green eyes, red or blonde hair, Rh negative blood. And I know there's a couple of people who've got Rh negative blood in here. And a certain type of intelligence and wickedness, psychopathy. These things were introduced into mankind. So I'm going to go through them. Giantism is still around. Okay, well, it's kind of masked. I was actually looking for giants on Google Images, and interestingly, even though in America the basketball players are huge, some of them are over 7 foot, none of them came up when I was looking for giants. So, you know, we've been conditioned to accept people of amazing height as maybe a little bit of an oddity, but and also that when we look in the Guinness Book of Records, we'll see actually very disabled people who are giants, who, you know, aren't physically very strong, but literally we have giants walking the earth today who are anatomically, you know, correct and you know, strong, powerful people. There's that guy there. He's huge. If you see him in the ring, he's a boxer. You see him in the ring against a normal sized boxer, it's just like, you know, it's David and Goliath. The first generation of the Nephilim were actually 450 foot tall, according to the Book of Remembrance, the Bible. But it might sound incredible they got to that height, but when you look at the parallels in other cultures, like the Greeks, they talk about the Titans. Anybody seen the film Clash of the Titans? Yeah? Well, there's a sequence in there where you see 450 foot giants fighting. It's telling you that, you know, this story basically has moved across different cultures, but these things existed at one time. And as they mixed with humanity, they got smaller and smaller. 6 fingers and toes. This again is actually more common than you can imagine. This is a whole family with that genetic trait. Halle Berry has 6 toes. Don't know if anybody knew that. So does Oprah. There are many more people than you can imagine have this thing. And when you look at, for instance, the Native American culture, you know, you're used to hearing about the Indians go how, you know, but they never said how, but they always used to hold their hands up just to see, are you human? Are you one of us? Also with nature, the Rh negative blood, when you mix Rh positive blood and negative blood, it starts to curdle, okay, because they're incompatible, and I'll go into that in a little while, but they're incompatible. So when the Native Americans or Aboriginal Americans used to do the blood brothers thing, where they cut their hand and mix their blood, they were actually checking to see if they had the same type of blood. More than one row of teeth. Again, this happens as well. It turns out that the human body is actually perfect, but what we have is an infiltration of a different bloodline, which causes genetic mutations. The human body does not mutate naturally. Yeah? Any mutation is caused by this foreign DNA in the human genome. Extra body hair. There are a lot of people that you see walking around that look quite normal, but like this guy here, is shaved down to his neck, round his collar. You know, if they took their shirt off, there'd be yetis underneath. Yeah. Again, this is another thing that's more common than most people realise. Extra vertebrae and a tail. Again, this happens again more often than people realise. In this country and the Western countries, when a baby's born with a tail, it's whipped off very, very quickly. Nobody even gets to hear about it. But there are other cultures where they don't immediately cut it off, or sometimes they don't even bother with it at all. But it's one of those things that still crops up these days, because just like in the days of Noah, right, we're all corrupted by this DNA. We're all corrupted by it. It's become all pervasive. And sorry to say this in the room full of white faces here, white skin isn't natural to this earth. And you know, I'm not trying to say it to be horrible or anything, but it's, you know, how does it make sense that, you know, you can be out in the sun and not be tolerant of it? You know, the sun gives this world life. It's literally a different DNA has pervaded this world, and this DNA does not belong here. And as I said, we're all, in one respect or another, we're all corrupted by it. I've got not much to say about blue or green eyes. The blue or green are eyes that don't have melanin, just like skin not having melanin. If their eyes are blue or green, it's showing a lack of melanin. Blue is the greatest lack. Green, slightly less, and then hazel is has slightly more. So with me, I've got excess body hair and I've got green eyes. So you know, most of us in this world are corrupted by this DNA. Rh negative blood. Now this is a bit of a smoking gun, really, because Rh negative blood is blood with a lack of a certain protein on the red blood cells. Okay, only 15% of the human population are lacking in this protein. But interestingly, it's only 15% of the human population. All other animals have this protein coating on their blood, and it's incompatible with the rest of humanity. When a Rh negative woman conceives of an Rh positive man, the woman's antibodies will attack the baby as a foreign object. Yeah? The baby will have difficulty surviving unless they're given a shot which suppresses the mother's immune system. Yeah? So it's telling you right there that this blood type, which is, has everybody heard of Rh negative blood?
Yeah, well,
Audience part.
It's not entirely true. I know an Rh negative and positive couple who didn't have that problem.
Right. Well, what usually happens these days is that the first baby, right, makes it through, but then the mother's immune system becomes sensitized to it, and then the second one. Sorry.
She had 3 children.
Well, you know what? You can't with people. You can't say everybody is like this. You'll get exceptions along the way, but generally, this is what happens. You get a long time ago. It was the first baby will be attacked. Yeah, but then as people got used to it, it's more like the second baby, and maybe some people never have it, but generally, you can only speak in general terms when you're talking about humans. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah. Well, scientists don't know where this mutation came from. They've got no idea where it came from. It doesn't. There's no way it can appear naturally, because as I say, it doesn't appear naturally in any species on this earth. And as I said, it's incompatible with the rest of the human species. It's also got a high copper content, which gives it a slightly blue tinge, which is where the term blue bloods came from, because the royal families are Rh negative. We found that out when Prince Charles gave blood back in the 80s. He was Rh negative. So yeah, that's where the term came from, because in the past it was the royalty who had the Rh negative blood types, and yeah, they derive their divine right to rule because they have the blood of the gods. They don't tell you which gods, though. Cunning and wickedness. As I said, this is about a bloodline. Yeah, skin color, and race are a distraction. This is about a bloodline, and it's only one bloodline that controls all the corporations in this world. Yeah, it's only one bloodline that controls the banks. It's only one bloodline that's responsible for all the misery that's perpetrated on this earth. It's a wicked bloodline, yeah, and it hates humans. It hates all of us. Okay. So, This is the parallel. You know how the elite like to rub stuff in our noses and rub stuff in our faces, like what they're doing and what's happened. Well, I believe the story of Alien is what's happened on this earth. Yeah, that alien. The only way it could sort of I don't know the word I'm looking for. The only way it could procreate is to impregnate humans. Okay, and I don't know if anyone saw the very last Alien film with Sigourney Weaver in it, but the alien in that film actually started looking human. It was human shaped and had a slightly human skeletal face, but that's the point. It was mixing with humans and it became more and more human-like. Okay, and when you look back into the fossil record, you find there are these creatures that look vaguely human, but they have these massive skulls. And I'd suggest that these ones were the only ones that survived, but earlier ones would have had a much longer head, just like the alien. So in Genesis 6:12, it says that essentially that these things had corrupted everyone apart from one family, and literally there was evil all over the earth, and these things were running wild. And by the way, there are a lot of people who say that the Old Testament is a bloodthirsty book with a bloodthirsty God who wants to kill everybody, men, women, and children. And yes, absolutely. But imagine this: if you were to find a whole village full of those aliens from Alien, yeah, would you hesitate to kill every last, male, female, and egg? Would you? Really? Audience participation. See, the point that's missed in the Bible is that the things that the Israelites were told to go in and utterly destroy were not humans. Yeah, they were sort of, precursors to what we are now. There were these hybrids that looked vaguely human, but were utterly evil, that would kill and eat humans.